We are joined by Mario today.
I knew the overalls were a mistake.
For those only listening, Red has a very distinct overall and t-shirt pattern.
It's a me.
It's a you, a Red.
Wahoo!
So, shall we do the thing?
Let's do the thing.
Okay.
Let's go. I'll stop.
Will you go?
We'll see.
This is about something. The future.
Mysteries.
Prophecy.
Faith.
Struggle.
Tragedy.
Triumph. Purpose.
Justice. War.
Peace.
Resistance.
Alliance.
Friendship. Family.
Stories.
Hi, friends.
Salutations.
And welcome.
This is 9 to 5. I am Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture videos on YouTube.
I'm Ren the Barbarian. I'm the Star Trek YouTuber.
And I'm Zylla. I have a YouTube channel called Zylla's Athenaeum.
And we are here for the very first Babylon 5 episode of our 9 to 5. What a way to make a station. We're talking today about we're watching the original pilot version is what we watched. So that's what we'll be discussing rather than the re-released one that on TNT that came out came out right before, I think before season 5 actually, that they did the re-release with. They made a couple little nips and tucks. We'll be talking about the original one today. The Gathering was written by J. Michael Straczynski and directed by Richard Compton. The year is 2257, and the place is Babylon 5, a space station built as neutral territory for humans and aliens to work out their differences peacefully. Station Commander Jeffrey Sinclair meets Lita Alexander, the newly arrived licensed telepath assigned to the station, and he gives her a tour of the place. It seems she's not the only new arrival, as a super shady-looking dude gets off the transport and starts being super shady. And there are more new arrivals to come. An old flame of Sinclair's, for one, and in a more official capacity, Ambassador Kosh of the mysterious Vorlon Empire. Sinclair gathers his top staff for a briefing on the ambassador's arrival. Security Chief Michael Garibaldi, Medical Officer Dr. Benjamin Kyle, and First Officer Lieutenant Commander Laurel Takashima. To greet the ambassador properly, they will also need the other ambassadors from the major powers who will make up the advisory council along with Sinclair and Kosh. There is Ambassador Delenn of the Minbari, Ambassador Jakar of the Narn, and Ambassador Londo Mollari of the Centauri. This last ambassador proves a bit problematic as he's gambling in the station's casino. He promises Garibaldi that he'll make it to the ambassador's reception, after all he's run out of money. But after Garibaldi leaves, the super shady dude offers to cover his losses. A short while later, Sinclair is delayed on his way to the reception by a dysfunctional elevator, but as he arrives, he and Garibaldi find Kosh apparently unconscious in the corridor outside his ship. Someone has attempted to assassinate the new ambassador. Suspicions and accusations fly, especially from Ambassador Jakar, who's concerned about where Londo Mollari was when he was supposed to be at the reception. Hint, still in the casino. And what happened with Sinclair's delayed elevator. In the medbay, Dr. Kyle wants to treat Kosh, but the ambassador wears a bulky encounter suit and the Vorlon government insists that no one must remove it. Despite their protests, Dr. Kyle opens the suit enough for him to see inside and learn that Kosh was poisoned. And he will likely die if Dr. Kyle cannot find out what the poison is along with where and how it was introduced. But there was only one witness, Kosh himself. After some reluctance, Lita agrees to telepathically scan Kosh. Meanwhile, Sinclair has assigned Garibaldi the investigation over the objections of some in EarthGov. And Sinclair and his girlfriend also have time for some backstory exposition while he talks about his trauma from the recent war with the Minbari, a war where humanity was all but defeated until the Minbari suddenly surrendered. Sinclair is haunted by a period of memory loss from the final battle. Back in the medbay, Lita scans Kosh and sees an image of Sinclair himself poisoning Kosh. and now the accusations and suspicions are flying all at him. Then the council holds a hearing on whether to send Sinclair to the Vorlon homeworld for a trial. There was a bunch of political haggling led by Ambassador Jakar. Garibaldi doesn't believe any of it. He thinks something more is going on, and when the super shady guy is found dead, he's even more convinced. Mr. Shady dealt in restricted technology, including something called a changeling net, a bit of kit that lets a person appear as someone else, like, say, Sinclair, or even Mr. Shady himself, since the actual guy's been dead for days. Oh, and there's a little one-person transport someone used to get on the station undetected. Things are starting to add up. In the medbay, Dr. Kyle has been hard at work preparing a treatment to save Kosh when Lita walks in and starts messing with the environmental controls keeping Kosh alive. And when Dr. Kyle notices, she attacks him. When Dr. Kyle notices this, she attacks him. Only at that moment, another Lita walks in. The real Lita. The faux Lita, presumably the assassin, runs but can't hide because the changeling net gives off a lot of energy easily found by the station scanners. Sinclair and Garibaldi gear up to face the assassin, but not before the Vorlon fleet arrive to demand Sinclair be remanded to their custody. Takashima ensures instead that the Vorlons get live footage of Sinclair and Garibaldi confronting the baddie. Garibaldi is injured, and Sinclair is left to do some action hero stuff alone. He finally incapacitates the baddie, and when the net is deactivated, it's proven to be a Minbari. The Minbari tells Sinclair cryptically, "You have a hole in your mind," and then sets off some time-delayed self-exploding device, which Sinclair escapes despite some damage to the station. Later, when Kosh is recovered and things are getting back to relative normality, Sinclair asks Minbari Ambassador Delenn about the whole hole in his mind conversation. She brushes him off, but it's clear that there are some mysteries left unresolved. However, for now, all is functional and Babylon 5 is open for business. So, initial thoughts?
Maybe it's because I watched this one on 2x speed, but this one felt like shorter than The Emissary felt, even though they were about the same length.
Well, that's what happens when you put it on 2x speed.
Imagine that. What is time anyway?
For me, it felt very long.
Yeah. But it also felt like, I don't know, a lot more simplistic than The Emissary. And I do want to talk about it on its own there. It's not just comparing it to DS9. A lot of it was just like setting up characters, and then the conspiracy around who tried to kill Kosh. It felt like it was introduced and then like wrapped up pretty easily.
It felt very piloty. That is to say, like, having seen this series before, it was striking to me how, there was a lot of things set up, but the actual plot threads of the show were barely plucked, right? Kosh doesn't even do anything except follow.
I'm aboard. Yeah. You know what this pilot reminded me of? It reminded me of the first pilot of Firefly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it set up that there was war in the past, and now the war is over, and then, like, here are all the characters.
And, in some ways, it's interesting to start with the pilot, right? Because it isn't the show that people watched. Like, there are characters in here that will never come back. That, in some ways, were clearly prototypes for other characters. Some of them will actually come back. Some of them we'll just never see again with no explanation.
R.I.P. Takashima.
We assume she got reassigned.
I mean, I'll miss Ben Kyle more than I will miss Laurel Takashima, I will say. As nice as it was to have some Asian rep right up front, that character was clearly a prototype for someone we will get, and the actress did not seem up to it. I was not impressed by that actress.
Yeah, she doesn't get a lot, but she does, like, it's hard to handle all that sort of, like, technobabble, sort of, like, military speak stuff that she is given. It's hard to, that's not always an easy thing to manage. And yes, we know that there is another character coming who we will be talking about when we get in the first episode, who is amazing at all those things.
Sci-fi is a very involved genre. It's not easy. Like, I mean, not every actor is up to it, and that's fine. But like, you have to be committed to the bit. Like, you have to buy into, like, this is the world I live in, and these terms I'm using, like, this is just everyday jargon for me.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's a common difficulty that people have, both as audiences and as actors of any kind, with sci-fi and fantasy both, because they're set in worlds that have just such a different basis for reality. And fantasy is often a little easier because at least the language of magic is, like, a little bit standardized, but only a little bit. So I don't know. I definitely have encountered that as, you know, people who can't stand reading sci-fi because there's just too much nonsense going on in the verbiage. Personally, I've always found it to be one of the more interesting ideas. It's like, what's normal in your world?
Sci-fi is a bit like when you first start reading Shakespeare, because, you know, there is that knee-jerk reaction to try and, like, translate every word, and you will drive yourself crazy if you're trying to translate Shakespeare in that way. Like, you kind of just have to read it and, like, kind of, like, untense those muscles and let your brain just kind of absorb it. And then you will understand the story so much better. And that's kind of like the way sci-fi is, because, you know, if you can find, like, the humanity in sci-fi, like, you know, you're a lot of that technobabble, lore building, world building, like, it kind of becomes familiar, and it kind of, you know, goes to the periphery, but eventually you get more familiar with it.
Yeah, and this is not on, this is on the sort of softer spectrum, more fantasy spectrum than hard sci-fi. So a lot of the science is just kind of like reverse the polarity of the neutron flow type stuff, which mostly you just have to make it sound good. There's an art to the delivering that. And yeah, and sometimes some actors can learn that, and some directors are better and worse at doing that, and whatever combinations of things. It's unfair to Takashima's actor that we are comparing her to the, you know,
the person who she is the prototype for.
Yeah, this is the tricky thing, is that we have all seen at least some of Babylon 5, and some of us have seen it multiple times. Ren, you've only seen about a season and a half, right? So, yeah. But let's dig in a little bit to some of our characters. Let's talk about the world that we're introduced to first. We get this space station, the last best hope for peace. Big football in the neutral space.
I think it was interesting that they chose Malari to do the intro read.
Don't really know why, but...
Was that Malari?
Yes.
Oh. I assumed that was someone else, and I was actually like, oh, I forgot they introduced that character all the way at the beginning.
He hasn't fully got his accent as defined as it will be. There's a number of things that in the design field that changed. They haven't fully found Jakar's face yet. And the design for Delenn.
Yeah, she looked a little bit more. I want to compare her to a alien race from from DS9 that we won't encounter for a while. But yeah, she looks a little bit more like chalky, I want to say.
She was intended to look masculine. They wanted to either have the species be androgynous or have her be male presenting. Played by a female actor for future shenanigans. But the treatment of the voice didn't work. And so she ends up looking masculine and sounding feminine. And it's just not a combination people were ready for in 1993.
Interestingly enough, in the original pilot for the original series of Star Trek, they kind of did a similar thing where the Captain Pike, who was the captain on the Enterprise before Kirk, gets kidnapped by these aliens that look like they have testicles for heads. They were all played by women, but they were all dubbed over by men. So I think it's interesting they kind of like did the opposite of that for Delenn for this pilot.
Yeah. And I love Delenn's voice, so I'm glad we don't get it modified. But yeah, it's one of those things where like sometimes when you're building stuff, it does work and works better than you expect, and sometimes things need a bit of refining, a bit more budget. For one thing, there's a number of places where you can see that there is a lacking of budget or a sparing in certain areas and not in other areas.
As someone once said, art is like jumping off of a cliff and building your wings on the way down. And I do enjoy seeing like the process of creating something as it's being made. Like, you know, like nowadays, you know, in this age of like prestige television, like everything has to be like polished and finished like from the jump, or else they won't get a chance. And you don't see that in today's media.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll always know Mira Furlan as the Danielle, aka the French woman from Lost. She's like the only person who I knew from another thing before watching this show.
Oh, neat. She is from Croatia, at the time Yugoslavia, and she was sort of stuck in the States because of all the stuff that was going on in her region at the time. And yeah, she had a few jobs and a few different things and Shakespeare background, and all of which goes to this amazing role. I think she does beautifully.
Yeah. Delenn is perhaps my second favorite character. We haven't met my favorite character.
And they do.
I think I know who we're talking about.
Yeah, they do. I think a good job of sort of setting the groundwork that she's got. That she's a bit mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of an androgynous presenting race, even if the full vision didn't come to light. I didn't think that she looked particularly masc in this, but would I notice? I don't know.
She definitely didn't look conventionally feminine as what we consider feminine in the human race.
No, she looked like a representative of an alien race.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice was coded femme, but I think they said she a couple of times. You know, when we see more Minbari, you know, we saw a second one in this episode, but, you know, when we see more Minbari, they do have a kind of androgyny to their design, to their clothing and their color schemes. And notably, they don't have hair. You know, so there's not like haircuts to distinguish them. Although, you know, our highest femme character in this episode had very short hair. But Patricia Tallman is just very striking.
I mean, who says that every species has to have sexual dimorphism?
Right.
And we will see it later. We will see when they refine. There'll be a femme bone head shape and a mask bone head shape.
But that's something that the human eye is not trained to notice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Especially when we have 2 examples. So, I think that it worked well, even if it didn't work the way they wanted.
Yeah. And I kind of wish they'd had a third sex, just because we will
Yes.
begin to discover soon that everything in the Minbari culture runs in threes and triangles.
I do think it's interesting that both shows each have a trans-ish character.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of things that I noticed. I mean, both. When I was watching the emissary and this, that are incredibly closely related. Just the look of the inside of the station, the centrality of the casino, even the way that the sort of the CGI setup felt. You could kind of tell that this was originally pitched as a Star Trek show.
And yet, I think there's really important ways in which it is not Star Trek.
Very.
This is not an ideal future.
Yeah, you don't see a Picard going around threatening people by telling them, "I made you swallow a tracking device, and I'm gonna find you and kick your ass if you mess around on my station." Even though he was just joking, it was still I was like, dude, you can't do that.
I wouldn't quite put it past Cisco to make a similar kind of unfalsifiable threat.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be against Starfleet ethics to make this particular one. Not to mention the whole thing of trading with the Centauri that his girlfriend does, where she's like, "I threaten to space everything they gave."
Definitely not the medical privacy violations that Dr. Kyle and Lita both commit.
I mean, to be fair, those were admittedly breaking the rules anyway.
Yes, and to save Kosh's life. So we have the setup. We have on Babylon 5. We have the human sector and the alien sector. Although that will also get redesigned because people felt it was too much like a zoo. Was the response from some of the viewers?
The alien zoo is kind of notorious.
Yeah, and hey, in nod to our old the old show, we got some Muppets. So we've got that, and we've got our 5 main races. We have humans, Minbari, Narn, Centauri, and Vorlon. So,
or as I like to call them, the penguins, that's the Centauri, the lizards, that's the Narn, and the Vorlons are spooky boys.
I do love me some spooky boys.
Spooky boys with a vending machine toilet seat thing on his head. But yeah, we have the Minbari and the humans have recently been at war, and we get a bit about the human Minbari war, which is something that will come up a lot. And we get the mysterious, we don't know why the Minbari were going to win and they suddenly stopped.
And clearly both sides have kept that kind of a secret in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's interesting how both shows are coming off of oh yeah, there was a conflict recently, but it stopped now and we're trying to pick up the pieces from that. On Deep Space Nine, it's not one that the humans were that the Federation was directly involved in, but they are trying to facilitate the reconstruction after the fact. Whereas And even then, it's like you could, kind of compare Sinclair's involvement with the Minbari conflict to Cisco getting caught up at the Battle of Wolf 395 and losing Jen.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a very, like I said, it's a lot of similarities.
But I think the similarities to our world, the Minbari are very Asian coded.
The particular interaction of Delen's thought process with the Zen garden, I think really shows that off, like the ways in which the Minbari are meant to have this sort of like indirectness that we associate in the US a lot with China and Japan in particular. I think they dress in these robes that they are not kimono, they do not wrap, they do not layer, but they are kind of these garments that both sexes wear, and they have a more sort of robe-like shape. There's this sort of air of indirect speech. They're telling you stuff, but they're not telling you stuff. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, people everywhere in the world do this. It's just how much is culturally understood from how little. And that often gets lost in translation. Having experienced both, I would say that oftentimes people from the southern US are more indirect than many Japanese people, but...
Bless your heart.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, there's a difference between indirect and passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have the design aspects are very, I think, Pan-Asian inspired with the shapes, but it's inspiration rather than direct reference, I think, and which, but I think like situated in 1993, I think talking about a war a decade ago, at this time there were echoes in American memory of, well, Vietnam specifically, and also Korea and Japan as wars. So people with a vastly different culture who within a generation had been at war with, or the West America had been at war with, and trying to, like, particularly the Japanese America relationship in the 80s and 90s was very important, as Japan was taking the place as this economic manufacturing powerhouse with the rise of computer technology, and so like a very changing relationship between East and West in that sense. I think that is the echo that we're seeing in the time it was made.
Not to mention U.S. congressmen are notorious weebs. They love their mangas. Sorry.
Although, in some ways, this like I was just rewatching it and thinking, wow, this feels so 80s in certain ways.
Mm.
Like, particularly the shoulder pads.
Well, it was 1993. They hadn't quite shaken off the 80s yet.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. It definitely feels early 90s. Like, so much of the design. Like, I swear I had the bed that they have in his quarters with the metal. So much neon and bright colors, and yes, shoulder pads. It's all very turn of the 80s to 90s.
Lita's hair. I want to do that to my hair.
Which also is a very modern style.
It is. The 80s, 90s are kind of
coming back.
Yeah.
It's time.
I would say that it was bigger like maybe 5 years ago, but like,
It's a 20 to 30 year cycle. Fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the time people were very nostalgic for the 50s and 60s. So It is a thing. We will not.
Oh boy, I can't wait for the 2000s to come back and everyone to be wearing ultra low rise jeans again. Can't wait.
We will not be idealizing the 90s. There are things to remember fondly and things to not. For example, we don't have to smell the scent of cigarettes that would be on this entire set.
Thank goodness we don't have smell-o-vision. like in some ways I want it, and in some ways I'm just like, thank goodness we don't do that.
It would be the smell of cigarettes, grease paint, and sweat, probably.
Comment below what you think Babylon 5 smells like.
Because the alien masks were not comfortable.
I recently, on a trip to New York, not super long ago, went to the Museum of Moving Images, I think was the name of it.
Oh, the MoMA.
Yeah. And there was a Jakar mask among the varied and wonderful items that they had. They had a huge Jim Henson exhibit, but like I was like, oh, there's Jakar. I know that face.
I'm just imagining there'd be like gaping holes where those red eyes are supposed to go, and like a gaping mouth thing. So it's just like looks like somebody's skin Jakar.
Pretty much. I mean, they have it mounted on something head shaped, and I think the mouth is held more or less closed. But yeah, it does kind of look like that.
Which is a good opening to talk about the other two races who have recently been in conflict, the Narn and the Centauri.
Mm-hmm. Was it you who told me that like the reason that Centauri hair looks like that is because like pure Jurassic, they were trying to figure out how to style him, and at one point he just took his wig and flipped it upside down and said, look, let's do it like this, and the stylist was like, actually, yeah, I love that, let's do that.
That's the legend, is that he was messing around and joking with JMS, and JMS was like, what the hell? Or they were both thought the other was joking, or both thought the other was serious, and by the time by the time they actually talked about it, it was already like a thing in Centauri design. And, I love it, to be honest. Like, creative ideas can come from anywhere, even a joke. And I love the way that the crest plays out in the peacocky hair crest plays out all over the design of the Centauri, because I love the design of the language of the Centauri and the Narn as well. I did a whole video, which has spoilers in it, talking about the design of the Narn and the Centauri, and the way that the Narn are presented as so very alien, and lizardy and
red eyes,
snaky and all,
And the Centauri
alien.
Just feel like space Romans.
Yeah, sort of Rome / Empire, Imperial France.
To me, it looks like Malari, like if an Emperor Penguin and Napoleon Bonaparte had a baby, that's what you would get.
Yes, with an accent from some non-existent part of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, vaguely Russian.
Yes. And I love it. He is disarming. He is very charming, is he not?
He is. I think every series should have that one character. He's just a rascal.
That he is. He is a rascal.
And then we also get some sympathy for him in this, because he feels diminished, and he's embarrassed about his past.
He's embarrassed about his job
and
his people's position.
Yep, and he's having to borrow money for the casino, and he's
got this uniform on that looks very military, but he's basically, he's an ambassador, but like he spends his days, gambling and trying to mooch money out of people.
He is the ambassador to faded glory.
I think what always spoke to me in terms of like Roman Empire, although Napoleonic is probably more what was in their mind. But like what always sort of spoke Roman to me about Molari in particular, but the Centauri in general, is this sort of living on their ancestors' glory. And this sort of your position is at least in part determined on your claimed ancestry, right? Like it was so important that like Emperor Augustus claimed not only, his great uncle Julius Caesar, who did adopt him, also claimed lineage from the goddess Venus herself in order to bolster his claim to power in Rome. Like that's the kind of power that can have. The little glimpses we see of Centauri culture and architecture way at the end. It also reinforces that feeling to me of like this is Rome after the empire has fallen away from it.
The thing about imperial France is they were sort of, what's that word, weebs for imperial Rome. As were the
Victorians
British Regency of
again, fashion is cyclical.
The Regency era Britain, very much like the whole neoclassical period, were very much like, we are reclaiming the glory and the history of Rome. Just at least the bits that we're interested in, we'll leave the paganism out, and it's the visual and design language of Rome became the visual language and vocabulary of power,
of empire and glory, and you better believe it went both ways. I say Victorian because I'm thinking of a specific archaeologist who went and
is it the one who eats mummies?
No, that was a lot of them.
Okay.
That wasn't necessarily just just like archaeologists. There was a whole thing for like mummy snorting.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Regency and the Georgians were super into Rome, and the Victorians were some of them were into Rome, but a lot of them, the fad was for medievalism. And then some it was for Orientalism.
Yep.
Which is like not, again, it's not the actual representation. And at that time, they meant that to be mostly the Middle East. And then, and of course, there was the fashion for Egypty stuff. It's always an appropriation that takes aspects of the culture and does their own thing with it. And I think like that's, I think it kind of works with the Centauri, is we've got this legacy of like inspiration taken and separated from its roots and explored and over and over and over again. So we've got a language of power rather than, and there are some very direct pulls, like the shape of the hairstyle being reminiscent of a bicorn hat. But like there's also a lot of abstract, like the whole reason columns are a symbol of power.
Dicks.
About which we will also find out more about the Centauri later, and I regret knowing.
And we don't get a lot of Londo and Jakar interacting in this, but we will see a lot. And we talked a lot about how in Babylon 5, we talked about how in DS9, the victims of colonialism that we sympathize with were the ones who looked human. Here we have the victims of colonialism are not very sympathetic, and the colonizers are the ones who look most human.
Interesting. That I'm really looking forward to like going forward with Jakar and Malari's dynamic. Of course, I've seen some of it, but yeah.
Oh, it goes places. So many interesting places.
So many interesting places.
Jakar's character arc in particular gave me some perspectives that I don't think I have seen elsewhere. Particularly on religion and religious motivation. I'll just say that.
Yeah, there's a whole narrative around forgiveness that will be really interesting to follow. But all of that is spoilers. At the moment, we have Jakar looks scary and seems very angry.
I actually really love Jakar's character design. I love red eyes. I love that kind of lizardy, demony look. But that's just because I'm a little freak.
You're not allowed.
I always found it very intriguing because he looks so much more alien, and that's always a plus for me. We've got, humans, and then we've got the Minbari and the Centauri, who are both kind of, Star Trek aliens. And then we have Jakar and Kosh, who are just out there in some direction.
They feel like they belong more on Farscape.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, considering the Hensons apparently having an involvement with this production, makes sense.
Yeah, I did really like that Muppet snail. I mean, I don't know what it was, but, it was great.
I see some parallels between Jakar and Dargo, and maybe that's just because I find both of them quite attractive. But I think
they have similar colorations.
And also the voice.
Nice deep voice.
Yeah.
That's always
Andrea Katsoulis is just this fantastic voice. And he was a, regular character actor in a lot of things. And he and Peter Jurassic, who plays Londo, do themselves develop a real friendship working together on these roles. And yeah, I think we lost Andrea Katsoulis a few years ago. Like a lot of this cast is no longer alive. Sadly, Peter Jurassic, understand, particularly fondly remembers Andreas Katsoulis.
There are a lot of these actors. Sinclair, I don't remember the actors' names. I'm so bad at these. But Sinclair, unfortunately, passed away, and with his passing, we found out a lot about what was going on in his life during the filming.
Yes, his name was Michael O'Hara, and we will talk about that when we get there. I do have the cast list up here.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I was just going to bring up the various people and what little I know about them.
Yeah.
But why don't we talk about Sinclair while we're here?
Yeah, a very different type of character than either what we will get going forward or what we had in DS9.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a smooth talker.
No. He's a lot more military, and that makes sense because he was a former soldier. Starfleet, it acts, I've said it before a lot, it acts in the role of a military a lot, but it is not a military. It's first and foremost a diplomatic mission. And so, Kirk, Picard, Cisco, a lot of them, they have to be they are diplomats first and soldiers second. But with Sinclair, you can tell that this man is a former soldier.
A former soldier with a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think even in this, we have him doing very stupid things. Why is he confronting the baddie? Especially when he's under suspicion. Tactically, that is a terrible decision. and he's just throwing himself into peril. Yeah, and I connect that we have with him having the whole discussion with Caroline, the girl who will not be returning, but that's okay. Who where he talks to her about his experience on the line and how he's uncomfortable with her seeing him as a hero.
And his relationship with her is in a really interesting place that we see right there at the end of, like, she wants him to give up his post, give up his military career, and come with her.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have a comfortable life doing that. And he clearly isn't going to. Like, that was a no.
A lot of hallmarks of trauma are kind of being self-trapped in the trauma, because, like, the body forgets how to deal with not being in a state of trauma. So in a way, it almost just stays stuck in that one position. Yeah. And I think you can see that a lot in Sinclair, like throwing himself into unnecessarily dangerous situations.
You know, it's not like he's sitting there making plans for how to get people to do what he needs them to do. He's very direct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like he's uncomfortable in command. Clearly he is comfortable in command.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's very competent.
He's very competent. He has his people, and his people are very loyal, which means that he's a good commander.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are two ways that you get that kind of loyalty, and only one of them gives you the stories that Garibaldi and Takashima tell. Mm-hmm. And that's being a really good commander.
And we see him being very diplomatic and sensible in the whole, what to do about Kosh and Dr. Kyle, to say, okay, we're going to turn off all the monitors, but you have to go in because it is to save his life. So we're going to accommodate as best we can, and
saying this will fall on my head. I will take full responsibility for whatever diplomatic, like, I'm prepared to put myself at risk to save the chance we have for peace.
If this happened on TNG, like, Picard would be like, no, absolutely not. We cannot violate this individual's personal privacy, and
Bev would do it anyway.
Yeah, because that's what Crusher does. She'd be like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll get away with it because you're in love with me. And Picard's like, don't, damn it, Bev, don't do it again. But okay.
Talking about his trauma, and I like that scene where he talks about the experience of the line, and the whole him having missing time. I know this is something my mom experienced after a bike accident, which is, not a war, but still, it was a very traumatic event because she remembers cycling to work, and then she remembers waking up in hospital, and there's a gap there that she has never been able to recover, and it took her a long time to adjust to living with a hole in her memory.
And I think that's really important to point out that, we think of like PTSD or memory gaps or really deep, impactful traumas as being something like a war or, maybe being abused as a child. But there are other traumatic events in the world. Maybe not as broad as some places on the internet like to call it, but like real trauma does happen to everyday people too. Yeah. And these kinds of symptoms are things that don't get talked about in that way a lot. Someone with a concussion might have memory gaps or have a complete change of some aspect of their memory working or processing, or even somehow how they present or process things in other ways, that just changes because brains are weird and complex, and you wouldn't think that something as quote unquote normal as a concussion would cause that, but it does. Sorry, I've gone on a totally side rant, but like I think this is really important for people to realize.
Yeah, I mean, I personally cannot remember the majority of my childhood because I lived in the house with an abuser. So yeah, the mind absolutely protects itself by erasing memories. But imagine that you had this missing memory that you just assumed, oh, I just don't remember it because whatever happened was so traumatic that my brain immediately erased it. And then someone comes to you and says, no, there's a reason you can't remember it. I'm not going to tell you why, but it's not because of psychological things. It's an outside force.
Yeah, and it just like, it's something that stories use a lot, but we should, ground that it is actually it's a pretty drastic thing and can be pretty upsetting to your sense of self. And I think there is it's not fully fleshed out as it will be in the first season, but we get a sense of he does feel he's missing something.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so natural in the pilot, but at the same time, as a writer, it's really interesting to have him come out of that experience with the Minbari assassin and, having already been, passed this file by Delenn that he shouldn't have, and to come out of that experience, and the thing that he wants to ask her, the thing that is most prominent on his mind is, how does he know I have a memory gap?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's entirely realistic, right? Like if somebody says that to you in that situation, like, well, I thought we were just dealing with an assassin here.
Yeah.
What's this?
What do you mean?
Yeah, this is an assassination plot, but there's clearly more going on here.
No, I think it's a really great setup for his arc through the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because this is, of course, definitely something that's going to happen again. Like, even if you hadn't seen more of the show, like, you could figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the beginning of a plot arc.
Another thing that I think it's clear we'll see more of is Mr. Garibaldi. How do we like Mr. Garibaldi?
Garibaldi is, when I started watching the show, I thought this was a character I wasn't going to like. I thought he was going to be kind of an asshole.
He is.
But he's an asshole you love.
Yeah. He is surprisingly likable.
I'm glad that he's not an Odo. Like, this show doesn't have an Odo, really. The closest thing I guess we would get to an Odo is, like, a character who hasn't been introduced yet.
I think he and Odo have some things in common. He reminds me, he's a Sam Vimesy kind of character, which is, like, what if cops are bastards, but one of the cops is also on your side? Bastard on your side. Garibaldi as cop is something I think we shall be looking at going forward, because he is very coppy, and in some ways,
in later seasons when he comes up against a different set of cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know that he's not a very good cop, not good at his duties, because he's already been fired from, like, 3 other stations. And the only reason he really got this job is because his commanding officer is a buddy.
Yeah, he has very much a noir detective sort of aspect to him.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the guy in The Expanse, who I think probably had some inspiration from Garibaldi.
Yeah.
I should watch that sometime.
He's a cop.
Very good.
Asterisk.
So I've heard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I know when Jesse and Vera did Babylon 5 for their Jumpgate podcast, they really didn't like Garibaldi.
Really?
because
fascinating.
Because he's such a cop.
I mean, he is. I will grant that, and it's hard to like cops, especially now.
Yeah, and I think it's a thing I'm curious to look look into as we go, because I have a fondness for Garibaldi, but also a frustration with him, in equal measures.
Well, our friend Vera Wild, she's made it a point on her channel to talk about how, the media you consume is not a reflection of your morality. And I believe that. I believe that, like, you can like a cop character without,
liking cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a thing I want to flag to keep an eye out is Garibaldi and the copness and all of that. In part, it is Jerry Doyle is very charming.
He is
in a ruthless bastardy kind of way.
Unfortunately, his real life career
is not good. Yeah, he's a conservative.
Yeah, I'm going to refrain from making jokes about him being named Garibaldi with his receding hairline, because it's not nice to make fun of people's personal appearance.
But
and also baldness can be cool.
It can.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Picard. Look at Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
And look at Delenn.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think
but yeah, Garibaldi's not cool. He's many things, but he's not cool.
Yeah.
Cops can never be cool.
I think it is an interesting choice to name him after the freedom fighter. Garibaldi was he was the leader of the Italian unification. He's an interesting fellow. He's one of those few people in history who acquired a huge amount of power and then just walked away.
Interesting.
He went back to goat farming, I think it was.
Speaking of names and interesting choices, my housemate, who is much more in the weeds about this show than I am, was telling me about the name Sinclair, and that J. Michael Straczynski was definitely familiar with the fact that Sinclair or St. Clair is rumored to be, in one of the many heresies, was rumored to be the name of the family descended from Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, it's not uncommon in sci-fi shows to have a space Jesus. We've already kind of established that's kind of Cisco's role with the whole emissary thing, or at least some kind of religious icon. So yes, perhaps we are also going to see some thing of that nature with the Sinclair and on certain other characters in Babylon 5.
Maybe we will. I honestly can't tell. Sorry, you're so subtle.
It's also not particularly surprising that J. Michael Straczynski has given his title character his own initials. But I mean, he's not actually named the character anything, iteration on Christ, like say Crichton, or the common shepherd thing.
Yeah.
Is also something.
Yeah, or giving your character the initials JC. Yeah, like Crichton. But I mean, Sinclair, pretty close. Jeffrey Sinclair.
Yeah,
I do think it's funny when creators like name characters after themselves. Like if you've seen the Transformers movies, Megan Fox's name is Michaela Baines, and the movies are directed by Michael Bay.
Some people are subtle.
I know. Right as you said text.
That never occurred to me, but it's also just really kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm like, are you...
in the, like, these are the most mask-coded movies.
Yeah.
And you're gonna name a character after yourself, and it's gonna be the girl.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell us something, Michael?
Oh my gosh.
Because, I mean, we did see The Matrix.
We support.
Yeah. We're here for you, if that's where you want to go.
Okay, so what else should we talk about? Mr. Shady. We have
Yes. Del Varner,
yes.
who is actually not Adele Varner.
He is the most 90s looking shady mother.
He looks like Adrian Brody.
He kind of looks like he wandered off the set of 90210, where he was like a villain.
He has the smarmy smile. It's
Yes.
really good.
I had no thoughts about him except that he kind of looked like Adrian Brody. except when he like, you know, he got off the spaceship and like, you know, the camera lingered on him and then like it showed him again like when the Vorlon ship showed up and he was like, it's about time. And I was like, gee, I wonder who the bad guy is in this episode.
I mean, the voiceover also told us.
Yeah.
Like, one man with a mission of destruction. You know.
I wonder who that one man could be.
I just kind of found his look very entertaining, and yeah, he is so obviously the shady guy. But then, like, there's a bit of a twist in that very little of when we see him, he's not the one man.
Yeah, like that is Del Varner's face, and as far as we know, Del Varner wasn't a bad guy. It's just
we know
guy.
He was a bad guy. He was selling dodgy tech. And,
that is true.
Yeah.
But he's not an assassin. He doesn't. As far as we know, he wasn't killing people.
Yeah, I mean, he at least knew he was selling the thing. Whether he knew they were going to kill him and use his face. But yeah, I love the 90s, the early 90s particularly vision of how people will dress in the future. Also connected with the 80s people, late 80s people saw the future, but like because I flash back to like Quantum Leap and all the LED lights and everything. But yeah, like the suit is just. But yeah, he's Mr. Dodgy Man, and then the other person whose face gets used quite a lot is our telepath. So we have a world with telepaths in it.
Yes.
With a codified system of telepaths, no less.
Yes. Did they actually use the words Psy-Core in this episode? I forget.
They did.
Okay. So yeah. So we have like basically an X-Men school for I was about to say psychotics. That's not it.
Telepaths.
Psychics. That's the word. Yeah, we have an X-Men school for psychics. And it's like a very closely regulated, sanctioned service that they offer.
I'm not sure if X-Men is the right. We'll see. Ren hasn't seen a lot of the Psy-Core yet.
I know Chekhov is like a big part of it.
Light is such an interesting character, and so much of what so this is another actress who will not immediately be back with us, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I believe there were scheduling conflicts.
Yeah.
But
we will get a psychic to fill that role.
And the actor is Patricia Tallman.
Yeah. I did do a little bit of homework before this, and I was like, who the hell are all these people? These were not the same people who were in Midnight on the Firing Line. I was like, where the hell is Susan? So, you know, I was just trying to, you know, I wasn't trying to spoil myself, but I did want to see, like, did these actors have conflicts? Could they just not return? Like, what's going on? But yeah, I was like, this character is not the psychic character we will have.
No, but she becomes very interesting. And that actress, I find her presence really striking. Every time that she's on screen, she really draws the eye. And I mean, some of it is just the shock of hair, like that is. But there's something about the way that she's framed that, like, I assume again that all these people are super attractive. I don't know, but
she's attractive.
But,
I mean,
but like, there's something about the way that she is framed, even as opposed to the other women who are part of this cast, right? Takashima doesn't get this framing. Caroline doesn't get this framing. Like, and Caroline is supposed to be the sex bomb, right?
Yeah.
Um,
In a way, Lita kind of reminds me of like Catwoman.
yeah, like she walks into into the frame. That's the word I want. Into the frame, and suddenly it's all about her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I mean, I'm not trying to say that that's an intensely sexual thing. I don't think it is mostly.
No,
it is very
think,
much like an actor presence thing.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that she's named after the swan.
Well, she's not, or at least the spelling suggests she's not, because Lita the Swan is Leda, Leda, and this Lita is actually Lyta, like Hippolyta, the Amazon queen.
Oh,
the one who
I never
fell in love with
of
her
that.
own stepson. Yeah.
Hmm?
That's the one who fell in love with her own stepson. Yes.
No. Her actual son was the one who was involved with that. She was already long gone by then.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm thinking of Hippolytus.
Right. Hippolytus is the name of the son that she had with Theseus. Yeah. Who, by the way, is ancient Ace. I will die on this hill. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and her last name is Alexander, like, which is automatically going to conjure Alexander the Great.
Right. So Lita Alexander, this combination of Hippolyta and Alexander, two warrior monarchs from the ancient Greek world. Neither of them actually from Greece. And I have no idea if that's what the thought process was, but like that was very striking to me.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just picked like a name they've found interesting because
no, it is. There are a lot of writers where you could assume he picked a name out of a hat, or they just thought it was neat, or named them after their kid's cat. When it comes to J. Michael Straczynski, you can pretty much bet that there is significant thought behind decisions like these. That's just the nature of the writer he is. That's one of the things that is about Babylon 5 distinctly, is that we have one authorial voice. In the way that Deep Space Nine was jazz, where we get a lot of input from a lot of people and a lot of playing out. J. Michael Straczynski had a set of recipe cards with the plans for where things were going to go. Not quite at this point, but by the time that the actual thing gets made. So with the decisions like the naming of characters, we may not necessarily know all the reasons behind them, but you can bet that it is not by chance. It's not just I like the sound of it. Not with this writer.
Well, there you go. Kind of like Vince Gilligan in that sense of having everything, like everything is deliberate, everything is planned out. Like, this is point A, we're starting here, this is how we're getting to point B.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where he has to zig and zag to try and accommodate life.
Yeah, like actors dropping out because of personal reasons.
Yeah, but there's always there's always plans within plans, and yeah, there's definitely some bits where he's also got to fill in some stuff because of network notes. And he usually manages to let you know quite clearly that he does not like the network note, but we'll get to that in season 2.
More like Straczynski.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that was bad.
That didn't quite work.
No,
I see where you're going.
You keep trying.
We'll figure it out.
But yeah, the curtains aren't just blue, they're cerulean, and there's a whole backstory as to why.
Okay. I've got
Let's start when Oscar de la Renta did a series of military jackets.
So it's J. Michael strategy is what you wanted.
There you go. Saved it.
But yeah, I do find the name Lita Alexander really fascinating, and really striking. As you know, this is a warrior name, very very strongly, and also a classical name.
There's actually a Lita in Deep Space Nine too, but her name is spelled Leeta.
Interesting.
So we didn't get to see much of him in this, but do we have thoughts on Kosh and the Vorlons?
The spooky boys.
Yes.
I want to know what Ren thinks before I start going.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of an episode of the original series. There are these creatures that, and actually, one of these aliens becomes a main character in Star Trek Prodigy, a deeply underrated Star Trek property.
Mm.
They're called, what are they called? Medusans? Right, Medusans. Which, of course, that's a very specific name for a reason. They're like kind of these like ethereal jelly blob creature things. And the thing is that like no one can look at them because if they do, they will lose their minds.
And we have Zero, and she has an encounter suit, or they have an encounter suit.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's what Kosh makes me think of, this creature that no one can look upon because it is forbidden, but like they have this special suit so that they can like get around.
Yeah, I think the writers of Prodigy may have watched Babylon 5.
What?
So first of all, I've never even heard of Star Trek Prodigy. I'm sorry.
Ooh, it's
you
awesome.
have to watch it. It's so good, and it's like it's got a non-binary character. It's so good.
I do love a good non-binary character.
And there's a fat character. Well, like there's a large character named Rocky.
Yeah.
Who is?
But there's also
adorable.
I would argue also that Jankum Pog is also a fat character.
Yeah, I just identify. I love Rockham. I love
Rock Talk.
Rock Talk.
We love Rock Talk. She's a baby.
Yeah, it's a Star Trek show that was made animated and for sort of middle school age kids. But that works for adults, and it's only 2 seasons long, and it's very very good.
It reminds me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender because like even though it's a show for middle schoolers, it starts off very dark.
But Paramount are assholes, so they canceled it. But yeah, thoughts on Kosh?
So I love my spooky boys, particularly spooky aliens. I had forgotten how different the presentation of the Vorlons was in the pilot than it will be. And we're missing their counterpart.
It's a bit like Darth Vader showing up in Rogue One, like, you know, like it's just like a dark hole, and then all of a sudden you see like the lightsaber turn on in the darkness, and you're like, oh shit, and you hear that.
Yes, it's a very good use of shadows in that shot.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing Kosh in this, you know, like he's still incredibly mysterious, right? Like we have no idea that like when his suit opens, there's nothing for us to see but blinding light. You know, the doctor is like disturbed in some way by whatever it is he sees, and so is the psychic. And like there's clearly a reason that they don't want random humans seeing them. But like the sort of materiality of the Vorlons in this episode, like a Vorlon warship showing up and like threatening to fire, the idea of going to the Vorlon homeworld. It's like this makes them feel significantly more grounded than I remember the Vorlons being. And I think that is a change that is coming.
Mm.
But it also it also stands in contrast to the what do they call them? The prophets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
DS9?
The wormhole aliens, the
wormhole aliens, the non-corporeal wormhole aliens, because like the Vorlons very much have physical presence, right? That's not a problem.
Yeah, they don't try to pass themselves off as gods.
I mean, the prophets don't really either. They're not trying to pass themselves off as gods, or at least they weren't in that episode. They were just completely unaware of these weird corporeal time-stuck beings. But, like, in that way, the prophets are actually much more on a plane with the people of DS9 of, like, they're confused by what's going on, too. like,
Yeah.
They may be on a completely different plane of existence that has all these implications for this and that and the other, but they are also like, what? Poke, poke,
It
poke.
is corporeal.
Mhm.
What is time? Question I ask myself frequently. The answer is my immortal nemesis. Anyway, the Vorlons, in this one, they feel like just another alien species, but with like an air of mystery to them. But like,
Yeah.
they have a home world that we know where it is. We know what their ships look like. They have higher tech than we do, but like, the ambassador is just a guy who could get assassinated. Like, and like they might declare war on us. And that's a very different feeling than what I expect from the Vorlons.
Yeah. Clearly there will be some changes to what the Vorlons are. I like them, what they are, what they become.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of the encounter suit design.
No. It reminds me a lot of Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And not in a good way, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is this sort of weird linebacker thing with the thing, and it's practical, which like it's good to have practical effects, but it just never quite.
It didn't quite gel. I think Ren called it a toilet seat earlier, and
No, that
like
was
that's well, it was fair. Like it the.
To me, what their heads look like are like hair dryers.
Like
it's a hair dryer and a toilet seat with a big
pretty much, much, and all of it in weird plastic camo.
Yeah. And like the design team was doing great on so many things, they just didn't know how to capture the aliens encounter suit in a way that didn't look incredibly dated.
Dated wasn't the word I was going to go for there, but that too.
Mm-hmm.
The look of the Vorlon encounter suit could have been given more thought.
Yeah.
Because even with the resources they had, it would have been possible to make something that would be more mysterious than Muppety Wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. The Vorlons really didn't have that much to do in this pilot, but I'm sure going forward, we'll get more. We'll see what their deal is more. I'm looking forward to it.
To me, the defining feature of Kosh is his voice, which we didn't get here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as much as I find the encounter suit really janky and just kind of a fail, design wise, or at least sort of, it's a C. It's we're running out of time and it'll do. I come from a background in theater, so I'm used to sort of going, okay, I'll just go with it. It is what it is. And I think the thing that makes that possible for me is his voice. Because his voice is so, they achieve something so alien and otherworldly and also his dialogue is just so enigmatic, and so like I think I know I'm more aware of like the countersuit just doesn't work when we don't have that element of the voice that will make me go, oh, okay, it doesn't work, but I'll go with it.
He was less of a character in this one and more of a plot device.
Yes. Yes.
What are you gonna do?
Watch more.
It occurred to me just now that like the Minbari assassins plan had to depend on Lita reading Kosh's mind and finding out that it was Sinclair who killed him, because otherwise nobody would ever have figured it out.
Not necessarily. So there are multiple possible problems, like depending on what happens here, right? Because, okay, outcome 1, Kosh just dies. Well, then he died within minutes of stepping on to the last best hope for peace. The Vorlons get pissed and everybody is in trouble. Chaos ensues.
Yeah. True.
Option 2, they managed to save Kosh. Kosh remembers seeing Sinclair.
True.
So not necessarily. I think they did not necessarily plan for a psychic.
Yeah, it's a question of what exactly was their plan. And I think the plan is chaos. They're trying to destroy Babylon 5, and so
the plan is having no plan.
Well, no, I mean I think this
know.
is more like, the KGB sowing chaos to make it easier for them to infiltrate places, right?
Yeah.
Like it's that strategy. So like we got a very brief blip of, oh, who was this guy? He was part of a military sect that broke from the government over the peace. So he presumably hates humans and wishes that the Minbari had conquered them. I mean, it's only been a decade since the war. He might have been fighting in the war. We know that he was, in contact with the Narns, who, in the person of Jakar, are interested in taking military power in a joint effort with the Minbari. So, like, we have all of these little pieces, and I don't know if you don't already have context for that, if that adds up. But to me, it's like, okay, well, this guy's whole purpose here was to sow distrust of the humans.
Yeah, or just distrust amongst as many people as possible, because, Jakar and his maneuvering is already sort of causing a lot of conflict. Sinclair's in conflict with Earth, they don't like that he's got Garibaldi doing security. He may have tried to kill other people with the changeling stuff.
No.
Like, it just kind of like, yeah, this is one of the ways in which an operative can work, is just, taking
Plus,
opportunity.
they mentioned this is they mentioned this is like the fifth try to make a space station after 4 disasters.
3 disasters and 1 mysterious disappearance.
I wonder if that'll come back.
So many mysterious circumstances.
Well, to sort of bring that back around, I really like Delen's question at the end. So we get a what is humanity speech out of Sinclair, right? Why call it Babylon 5? Because that's who we are.
Yeah.
We try and we try and we try until it works.
Yeah, and I think that's a view of humanity I like. I mean, it is kind of like are doing the thing where humanity is, coded for America.
Again.
And that is sort of something that I do associate with America is trying. As someone who is not American and generally doesn't have a particularly rosy view of America, to be honest. But the one thing I do admire about Americans, and then the sort of thing is the optimism to keep trying.
Yeah. we've talked so much about the significance of the names of the characters. I don't think we've touched on the significance of the name of Babylon 5. I mean, we know it's called Babylon 5 because they keep trying to do this thing. I do think it's interesting they named it Babylon, though.
A name with lots and lots of layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower of Babylon. I think the idea of many languages. Oh, that's the tower.
That's actually
just Babel. That's not Babylon.
Yeah, Babylon was an ancient Mesopotamian city, but that's
Yes, as the Middle Eastern person in the room, I should be hang my head for muddling Babel and Babylon. But
that's
I think
that's where we get the word Babel.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Babylon 5 it rolls off the tongue better than Babel 5.
Yes, but Babylon was the center of a great empire that was a collection of a lot of different cultures and languages together.
Mm-hmm. And Babylon in particular remained a great city over the course of many civilizations in that area. Really was a place of a lot of accumulated wealth and power and culture over many millennia. But it's interesting because I would say that the modern valence for hearing the name Babylon is actually not really the ancient city, at least not in that way, but the sort of neo-Christian idea of Babylon as a city of decadence and sin against God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that double valence, just based on what you've told me about J. Michael strategy here, I think that's probably intentional, right? Is like
absolutely
a great city, the center of many cultures, and at the same time going to be seen by any number of people as the worst thing that ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And here we have, even in the pilot, somebody trying explicitly to get it destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Smart television shows.
Yes, it was conceived as a novel for television.
I love that.
Yeah.
Not a telenovela, though. Very different.
Very different. Although there are definitely going to be some moments that feel telenovela-ish.
Well, I mean, there's got to be.
So, do we have anything else? Like, any other thoughts coming up?
Like I said, looking forward to fleshing out the Vorlons more, looking forward to seeing more of Malari and Jakar butt heads. Like I said, like they're a kind of rivalry friendship kind of thing. It's similar to, like, the way Quark and Odo will snark at each other, except that neither of them is an Odo. They're both a Quark. We're like I said in the last episode, it's like I feel like I'm sitting backstage watching set pieces and actors getting into place for a play.
Yeah.
Even though some of these actors will be swapped out.
I am really looking forward to finding out what else I've forgotten. So I'm sure there is quite a lot.
That's always a treat, coming back to an old TV show you haven't seen in a while.
I'm really looking forward in particular to some of the relationships that will develop, and I don't mean romantic. I just mean like the characters that we do wind up with are all so compelling, and they form such interesting relationships with each other. It was one of the things that struck me when I first watched it, and like even just seeing the little pings of it here in the pilot, it was just like, oh yes, Londo and Jakar, and then well, we've talked enough about Ivanova. but like, there are characters that are going to be introduced soon that, like, all right, my favorite character, Ivanova, is wonderful and really probably should be second because I actually love Veer. Veer is my absolute favorite.
And
we have not met yet.
Another reason why I think that the Centauri are Roman coded, because Veer is the word man.
Yes, we will meet Veer in the next episode.
I love him so much.
He's so delightful.
Exactly.
Along with,
exactly. I
along
love
with,
Veer, and I do like Lanier, at least in the early seasons.
That's the other person who I recognize from something else. That is the little boy from It's a Good Life, the classic Twilight Zone episode.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson.
And also Lost in Space.
I have complicated feelings about Lanier. Because there are choices made by certain writers at some point later in the series that kind of make it difficult. But we'll talk about that, and we may have to have a bit of a spoiler section when we'll see the Midnight on the Firing Line. But we'll see. The next episode is Midnight on the Firing Line. Although first we have start a DS9 episode. The next episode of our podcast will be the Deep Space Nine episode Past Prologue, which introduces one of my very favorite characters of all time.
Is it that kitty that I saw?
No,
Yes.
the kitty is very cute. And the character has some things in common with kitties. But yes, we will be meeting that character in our next discussion. So yes, we have lots of wonderful people to meet. We really, really do. Yeah, I think this is going to be good. Do we have anything else that we want to reflect on how this show and what we've seen so far reflects on the world as it is now?
It makes me kind of sad to watch like a show like this where it's like, oh yeah, we're working so hard for peace and to keep all these groups that have conflicts, like to get them to be peaceful, and we live in a time where that is not really happening in real life.
The show will give us a few different definitions of peace and ideas around peace, and yes, the present time, there's various people using the word peace for various things and claiming things to be ceasefires that are not ceasefires. And yeah, there will be definitely some stuff in Babylon 5 that has a lot of reflection on the current world. But we haven't gotten to that yet. At the moment, we have persons in power who are respectable in the show, worthy of respect. Zylla, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I was going to say that, I keep thinking about how very differently militarization was viewed in the 90s than it is now in the US. And how differently, again, sexism is much less overt in this than it was in The Emissary. But that's not going to be true through the whole show, unfortunately.
Yes, we have a very different breed of sexism coming from this show that will turn up now and then.
Wasn't not there, but Sinclair's woman. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's okay if like if we have sexism if the aliens do it.
And that is not usually an attitude we get coming from Jakar. That's
no,
not the Jakar that we will come to know.
And the whole mating scheme.
Yeah, where is my
oh god, yeah, we
didn't
talk about the mating,
but I love that, like, he's genuinely being kind of considerate about the exact wrong things.
and Lita's just non-reaction, like literally the woman was too shocked to speak.
Like, it's immoral. Oh, don't worry, I've cleared this with my mate.
Yeah.
Do
you want to be conscious or unconscious? What?
I mean, he is he is seeking consent.
My brother in Christ, have you never heard of egg donation?
Well, no, he does offer that too.
Yes.
He just thinks it would be less
no,
efficient.
he offered cloning.
Yeah. Well, IVF was not as was a thing in the 90s, but it wasn't as good or as common.
Mm.
But
there you go.
But just to say, like it's so interesting to see again, like, in Star Trek they're military presenting, but they're not really military. They're more of a diplomatic corps who have, occasional guns. But this is a real military, and like it is presented in the way that militaries are often presented in pro-military shows, right? Like of like this is a guy with trauma from the war. He's still a warrior. He's got his war buddies, and he knows the senator. Like the power chain is like very personal, and it's so very American. It's so very American. Like if you watch Stargate SG-1, there's a very similar feeling, right? Of like, this is technically a subset of the Air Force, and you really can feel that. It felt so much safer 30 years ago. And I know that part of that is me growing up, but also part of that is like our military and our cops were a lot further apart 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And our sort of general cultural interaction was a lot more positive, I think, in the 90s than either prior to that or after it.
And speaking as the non-American, there was a lot. The rest of us had a lot more respect for America before Bush, and yeah, man.
I mean,
present day. But like, yeah, like it was. There was a sense. There was a sense, that we were more comfortable with America leading things. The Soviet Union had only recently been dissolved in '93, and it is definitely a factor in how a lot of this story is shaped. Is the the world post communism, and there was this sense at the time that you could change things by just changing things, by just doing things differently. There was this definite optimism, the Good Friday Accords and that sort of thing, and the Oslo Accords, which they thought that they had ideas that peace could be negotiated in this way, and that America could be the broker of peace because they had this reputation of merit and goodness that Reagan hadn't destroyed.
Somehow. Goodness knows how.
PR and cultural stuff.
Although to be fair, I mean, at least in my experience, which I'll grant is from an American point of view, but in my experience, that didn't really break until Trump. Like there was still some of that. Well, America is still the world's peacemaker, and in some ways, the world's police.
There was there was definitely a change after Bush. I remember, I was traveling at the time, and with the Canadian accent, I would be mistaken for American, and then people would be like, "Oh no, yes, of course, we like you."
I mean, that's always, at least in my experience, traveling as an American, that's always been true. People would assume that because I was polite that I was either local or Canadian, because I couldn't possibly be an American tourist. Those guys are assholes.
But I also, met some Americans who felt that they were always having to apologize, being like, "I didn't vote for him, and I'm not the thing." In a sort of It's kind of like the small domino to the big domino that would come later, but there was a definitive.
And you mean Baby Bush, right?
Yeah, I mean Bish too. Yeah. Nowadays, when I see future shows that code the future as Earth, as America, I have very much an eye roll response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But and see that whole like thing and the military thing is like a good force. Definitely a lot of side eyeing. But in the 90s, it did seem like that was a real future in a way that it just
things here were peaceful and plentiful and optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they weren't, plenty of terrible things, but the overall feeling was that there was possibility. But...
So, should we do favorite parts?
Yes, let's do favorite parts.
Well, my personal favorite part was when Sinclair was talking to Delenn, and she's like, oh yes, our files on the Vorlons are apparently they're more elaborate than yours. They're of course classified, and then she immediately pulls out a data card, and she's like, "Here, just tell them it fell from the sky."
If I liked the character interaction better, I think the part where the Doctor and the second in command decide to bring in the psychic would have been my favorite part. But it just fell flat, and I was really sad about that. So, in lieu of that, I think my favorite moment is actually Londo telling Garibaldi, "My job is to grovel."
I do think it's interesting that it's those three characters, the Doctor, Takishima, and Lita, who are the ones who won't be back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The Doctor is good. I really like him. Lita's so good. I'm so down on Takashima. I just don't like her performance here. And it just throws me out of every scene she's in. But
apparently
we're talking about favorites, and the thing that I liked.
Yeah, and there were apparently some ideas about making Takashima part of the conspiracy, and I think that kind of got left behind, and so her character just kind of ends up being a bit empty.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how to feel.
Yeah,
I don't have enough to work off of.
But I really like the confessional that we get when Londo takes off the jovial mask for a second, and we get this. It's exposition, yeah, but it's so heartfelt, and it's going that feeling of the truth and the heart of things, and the truth and the heart of people being hidden by this political mask is going to be so central to the whole show and what I love about it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see it here from the very beginning of, my job. It seems like a great job. It seems like a wonderful place to be. I have nothing.
I love
it. I love it.
Londo is one of my favorite characters because he goes on such an interesting journey, and he has the accent you can play with.
Yeah, you can do his accent because it's not really being offensive to anyone.
No.
Because it's not real.
And apparently his way, if he ever struggled with losing accents, his way would be to say, Mr. Garibaldi.
So what was your favorite part, Sara?
Well, kind of took it. So I'm going to go with my second favorite part. I really like there's a hole in your mind.
Mm.
It's just such a good little seed for the future. It's so well delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And
that guy has like 3 seconds of actually being visible in that get up. And he is so good. So on.
Yeah. Who was he? Greg Aronowitz. This is his only appearance in Babylon 5. But yeah, he made a meal of it. He made the most of it because that is a hell of a line delivery.
Yep.
And yeah, it will go on to be some mysterious bits we need to fill in and stuff. Yeah.
All right. So
yes, where can folks find everybody?
I'm Zylla.
well,
You can sorry.
You go first.
I'm Zylla. You can find me on YouTube at Zylla's Athenaeum, on Blue Sky and Twitch and Mastodon at Zyllable. That's syllable with a Z.
And you can find me on YouTube as Ren the Barbarian. I make videos about Star Trek and other pop culture. I have one about Batman that will hopefully be coming out soon. Fingers crossed, no promises. I'm also on Tumblr, Instagram, and Blue Sky as Ren the Barbarian. And Sara, what about you?
I am Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube. And one of the things that I do there is I release once a month a conversation about joy that I have with one of my friends. And May's conversation about joy, which probably will have been out by the time that this is aired, is actually with my friend Josh, who was my co-host on Muppet Sex and Drama, which was what this podcast used to be. And we have a lovely conversation about joy and resilience and gender stuff and also a bunch of talking about Trek. Because one of the things I do is just say, tell me about something that gives you joy, and then I just let my friend hyperfixate at me. And so we talked about Trek in that one. And yeah, there's a couple other in that series. There's Finn. And I had a delightful conversation about many things, including we talked a whole bunch about trains because we are autistic cliches.
And I really gotta go back and watch that because that just sounds so nerdy and delightful.
Autistics liking trains in Star Trek. Who would have guessed?
And then there's Mandy, who was more neurotypical. But we talked about the importance. Yes, but we talked about polyjoy a lot in that, and we talked about femjoy, like joy and femininity, and we talked about comedy. And then there was one that was very chaotic, which I had with Aeronach, which was last month's, where we talked a lot about the importance of sorrow and discomfort in joy and growth.
I thought you said Skaro, like I was like the planet of the Daleks from Doctor Who. I was like, I guess it's kind of important.
Nerdy. Different kind of nerdy because I do read. I do have Finn do a reading of a Khalil Gibran poem in that one. That he did for me. The sorrow and discomfort. How that being able to sit in discomfort and learn from it leads you to having a better experience of joy. So those have been fabulous conversations. I don't know who June's conversation will be, but there will be one.
Well, it's got to be somebody gay.
Yes.
Of course, we have so few straight friends.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the straightest of our friends.
No, there's Josh. I called him
right.
in our discussion. I called him the token straight friend because he frequently is. So yes, I really don't think finding someone queer to talk to in June is going to be a problem. A lot of my big job recently has been getting all of this sorted to how to release this podcast, and I now get to shout out our friend Samantha Duke, who made our fabulous, wonderful theme song. I will, which is now I will put in a over recording of us crediting her in the previous episodes now because y'all know that podcasting doesn't work and it's not linear podcast producing.
It is not linear.
But yeah, we are very pleased to have this absolutely fantastic bit of music that I worked closely with her. Well, I picked out all the words you hear, and then we did a whole thing and got lots of ideas back and forth. And I highly recommend that if you need music for anything, here is her contact info, and you will find it in the doobly-doo. And please go and commission for her because she does great work, and so we are very pleased to shout Samantha out. Editing Sara here, just popping in with a quick promo that all of your hosts and several other friends will be doing a live reading of Midsummer Night's Dream on summer solstice, which is June 21st, 3 p.m. Pacific time. We will be doing a live reading fully cast of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and we will be doing it to raise funds for Trans Lifeline. So come join us, give to a good cause. It's always a good time. June 21st, 3 p.m. Pacific time. That is it for us. Next episode will be us discussing past prologue from Deep Space Nine, Season 1, Episode 2. That will be in 2 weeks, and yeah.
No boom today, boom tomorrow. There's always a boom tomorrow. Sooner or later, boom!
9 to 5 is produced by me, Sara Ezzat. Editing duties are shared between me and Ren, and our wonderful theme music is made by Samantha Duke.
Who are you? What are you?
Mm-hmm.
So before we get even more off track,
us?
Well, I mean, that's part of the goal of the podcast is to talk about what the show brings up in terms of conversation about
the
modern
but Ren
world.
has a point.
We are. Yeah,
we have been going for 2 hours.
Yeah. I need to go.
All right.
soon.